First of all, thank you so much to Nir, and thank you so much to our speakers. Thank you for welcoming us today. I'm so incredibly honored to be able to conduct and moderate this panel and have this conversation. For a very long time, we have spoken about our beautiful continent, saying that its human capital, its greatest resources, are leaving it to go and search for greener pastures. But the pastures can only be green where you water them. So how can we retain that kind of talent? How can we retain ourselves on this beautiful continent and continue to be equal and equitable players in the global economy, but be a part of that catalytic change? And I believe that it's the right kind of leaders that we need. The leaders who see the vision, the leaders who aren't afraid to make the strategic actions and take the strategic steps to make sure that no one is left behind. And Isabelle, I'm going to start with you. Spotlight. I'm going to start with you. We speak about big numbers. 1 in 8 of the population, working age population, is from sub-Saharan Africa. It's 680 million people, growing at 30% with each decade. Those are big numbers. But the main question is, who is at the forefront to make those kinds of decisions, to crystallize on those opportunities of that population? And of course, you're a business leader here in Abidjan, and I'm interested to find out what are the things that you feel business leaders, private sector, need to do to crystallize on those kinds of opportunities?
Thank you. Well, I'm going to start perhaps with partnerships. Partnerships between the public sector and the private sector, so us, the private sector, making sure we're part of the conversation. So, for instance, a few years ago, while on the other side in government, we worked with the private sector to make sure we knew what the needs of the private sector were, the exact needs, so that we could cater to their needs. So really, those people are going to be a supply of workforce to our local markets, but also to the global markets. So we need to make sure we are able to compete, which means we need proper education, but not only. We need the proper skills that can cater to the needs of our local markets and the global markets as well. And this means not only basic education, but also vocational training and all this.
I'm glad you speak about education and you speak about the power of collaboration, because then it leads me to my next point in our conversation. We're here with the Princess of Africa, Mama Yvonne. Who has been at the forefront and really has been a voice for what it looks like for young people, what it looks like to pass the baton on, what it looks like to dispel certain prejudices that continue to catch fire globally about our beautiful continent. Mama, I want to ask particularly about investments and why it's important for a collaborative effort when it comes to investments, because it cannot exist in silos. What does investments from the private sector, from governments, from multilateral organizations, but also from global philanthropists, how do they keep us in the conversation? But of course, how do they catalyze the exportation of culture?
Thank you very much, Nomzamo. Bonjour, je m'appelle Yvonne Chaka Chaka, and thank you for having us. I think this is something that we have been talking about for the longest time. But, with my little French, I want to say, enfin, est-ce que l'Afrique peut changer davantage? We want to see if Africa will ever change, and it should.
Sure.
We have been in this for a very long time. Africa has absolutely everything that we could stand proud and say, we as Africans have got every mineral, but who controls it? Who gives the price? That is my biggest problem, because we have everything that we have. And today, Africa is in debt. Debt for what? We need to make sure that we walk the talk. We've seen our young people crossing the seas. This is not supposed to happen. The brain drain that we have in Africa is not supposed to be there. But people do not want handouts. They want a hand up. It is important that our leaders start walking the talk and practice what they preach and level the playing field for our people to be able to have good education, good health systems, look well after the environment, and compete with the rest and the best of the world. I believe in black power, and yes, there are black economists, there are black people who are very smart out there, and we are not turning back. We are moving forward. It has to be done now. Africa, your time is now.
Thank you for those sentiments and just painting that picture. And I love the fact that you lead into competing on the global market. Pawel, the time for the spotlight is you. Pawel, you are the Chief Operating Officer of Moniepoint. Moniepoint has just been listed in the Financial Times 100 fastest growing companies. Congratulations, that's massive. For anyone who's in the room and is wondering what is Moniepoint and why is Moniepoint included in such a coveted list, can you paint the picture for us and just let us know what Moniepoint is, please?
Absolutely, thank you. Moniepoint, for those who don't know, is a neobank. We're a financial technology company, and we're providing modern digital financial services to millions of Nigerians, and over time hope to provide those to millions of Africans in other countries. And I think the reason I'm here is to illustrate the point about the potential.
Sure.
Because we are a Nigerian-founded, Nigerian homegrown, Nigerian-created company that has, in that top 100, I'll brag a little bit, we're actually the second fastest growing company in Africa.
Wow. That deserves a round of applause.
Why is that? It's because the demand is there for the services that we provide. The millions of people in Nigeria and across the continent want modern digital financial services. They want to pay digitally. They want to be able to save digitally and keep their money safe. Cash sucks, especially in places that are physically unsafe. It's terrible and it's logistically difficult. No one wants to deal with cash. If you offer people a way to conduct their financial lives digitally, to transact digitally, they will absolutely take you up on that. And the amazing thing about this is this financial inclusion process that takes place starts to become this incredibly powerful virtuous cycle. Once you bring in merchants who are accepting payments digitally, they create a trail of data about the size and the stability of their business. That allows somebody like us, other players, to look at that data and give them access to credit, something that they would be completely locked out from without this digitization, because no one knows anything about them. So who would lend? They wouldn't know whether they'd get paid back. And I don't need to tell you that credit is like oxygen for growth.
Sure.
From a financial perspective, access to finance, and this is small-scale finance, the smallest businesses, the smallest shop owners. If you give them a working capital loan, they will buy twice as much inventory and they will do twice as much business. So I think I'm here to highlight that this Nigerian, the African opportunity is there. The demand is there, and the skills and the leaders are all there. It's ours for the taking. The time is now.
The demand is there. You also speak about inclusion, but we cannot speak about inclusion without speaking about exclusion. Isabelle, we were delayed in the integration when it came to the global economy. We were excluded from the agrarian revolution. We were excluded from the industrial revolution. But of course, now we're at the brink of this huge technological revolution. The big question, AI. How do we have those kinds of conversations? How do we tackle fintech without the education when it comes to the technology, but also the integration and inclusion when it comes to the technological revolution that the world is facing right now, particularly for the African continent?
Thank you. I think clearly here, leadership is on the Africa side, because when you look at mobile banking, at mobile money, and all these things that started in, some of the things that started in Africa, you can see that our people are really able to join the movement when it comes to digital. So even for education, you can use the digital to make sure that people have access to more education. You can use it. AI is an opportunity. It's also a threat, of course. There's cybersecurity risk, but it's a fantastic opportunity for us to make sure that our people are trained to AI, to data. Data management, because what happens with AI? It's what you put in there. It's the input that will give you the output. So where do we have information? What do we put in there? Our people, the people who actually put the information in there, how do we collect the data? So we need to make sure we are also, we have ways to control that and make sure we know what we put in there, because our people are really, they've really taken up, taken up the place when it comes to all our tools, whether it's social media and all this. You see Africans there, but really, they're not really creating, growth there. They need to be tackling, using this opportunity and do more things. So AI, yes. Our people need to be trained. We've seen people do that in South Africa. We've seen the African Leadership University, the African Leadership Academy in South Africa. We've seen the African Leadership University in Rwanda. We've seen the Ashesis in Ghana, and ALU also in Mauritius. We need to do things unconventionally. We can't do things conventionally anymore, because when you look at where we are, time is, he said it, and I think somebody else said it before, time is really not for us. We need to make sure that we know what we're doing. We need to act now. So when it comes to AI and when it comes to our youth, we want them to use it and make sure people can reach out to them. We've seen with COVID that you can be sitting in India and be a PA, a personal assistant to somebody in London. And so when the time comes, and the time is now, we said it, our people need to be ready to be a workforce to the market. So the demographic dividend really means that we have the workforce. They need to be skilled. They need to be able to compete with the others, and they need to be responsible with the use of all these, new tools, and then you have new businesses that could be created from that. That we've seen the startups getting investments, but we need also investments from local, African investment in African startups, as well as the Silicon Valley people investing.
I suppose talking about the job creation and talking about the financial inclusion and the growth, because the growth is absolutely exponential. Now, fintech apparently is not just about making money, but it's also about making a difference. Is that true?
You sound surprised.
I would have thought it was the former, not the latter. But we learn every day. Pawel, what can young people do, but also companies do, in terms of moving with young people, the transformation into the global economy for job creation when it comes to technology? Because it's a huge undertaking, but I don't think that it's impossible. Knowing where Moniepoint operates, what would your sentiments be around that?
So I think the approach is to lean into incubating talent. We have a women in tech program that has been unbelievably successful for us in terms of finding extraordinarily software engineers. And it's just a matter of creating the opportunity for people to apply, to engage with them, and to provide the training. And for people who join Moniepoint, we really try to provide the mentorship, the skills training, and so on and so forth. And I think it works on both sides of that recruiting funnel. It's people that come in, and there's 2,500 of us, and we're trying to upskill them. But even outside, investing in partnerships with universities, with other various communities of interest. And this is where the internet aspect of it is so amazing, because you can find people with a shared interest who are not even at the university, but they are really, really, really expert at a specific field, because the same set of Udemy courses and YouTube videos and so forth, it's all available now.
Right.
And just extending a hand, lending a hand to provide a little bit of guidance, I think that's what companies can do. It's at a relatively small scale in the grand scheme of things relative to what a government can do, but each one of us companies playing in that field can help and make a difference and foster the talent.
And your sentiments around leveraging democracy as well as the governance, the role that governance plays in it?
So when it comes to the democracy part of it, look, for a sector like ours, we're always highly regulated. Financial services, payments is always highly regulated. And I think what we need to thrive is a level playing field and very clear regulation. And I think, my opinion is, in democratic systems, there is a mechanism for making that happen, because if people see that the regulations are not good and the level playing field is bad, they vote in better rule makers who hopefully give you a better solution. And I think that's the engagement. And we partner with the central bank, we partner with the government to provide an opinion on the rulemaking. But really what we want is clear rules, universally and evenly enforced.
Clear rules universally. Mama, I'm coming back to you. There are still some prejudices that continue to persist about our beautiful, vibrant, economically viable continent. But of course, those kinds of prejudices can also be regressive in the progress that we've made. What are your thoughts around investing in the creative arts, investing in culture, to curb those kinds of prejudices and the kind of messages and, I suppose, identity of the African continent that can be exported?
Well, I must say that the Welsh explorer, Henry Stanley, thought Africa was a dark continent. This is not a dark continent. We've got different blocks, like ECOWAS, the East African, and NEPAD, and all of those. And I think it is important that we as Africans start doing things for ourselves, particularly when it comes to the creative industry. This is an industry that brings lots of money, but we haven't gotten it right in Africa, because those who are supposed to make sure that they are compliant, they aren't. And that becomes a huge problem. When we talk about the bill, whether it's in South Africa or anywhere in this continent, people are just not copyright compliant. But the creative industry is one of those industries that is sort of left behind. I know that in 1972, people started talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, and it was created in Rome. It was only in 2012, when the UN started talking about it, and only in 2015, was acted upon. But we talk about Sustainable Development Goals, and so many people are still left behind. By 2050, whilst we're trying to fix things, this continent will be approximately 2.5 billion. And what is going to happen? More people will be living in urban areas. And what will happen to all our history? We will totally forget about it, and we shouldn't. We need to make sure that the creative industry, our culture, becomes the basis of any economy. And we need to make sure that those people like yourself, people like anybody in the creative industry, are brought to the fore, because we are a business as well. And we can conscientize people, because the creative industry is not only about entertaining, it's about edutaining. People get educated and they get entertained. And for that, you want to say it was the creative industry that conscientized people to do anything. So we are part of business as well. And so when we talk about strengthening the economy, we need not leave those ones behind. We need to start walking the talk, as I said, to make sure that those sustainable development goals are adhered to.
And on that note, I've been told to wrap up. Thank you, Pawel. Thank you, Isabelle. Thank you, Mama. Thank you so much to everyone who's here. Thank you, Global Citizen, for just lifting the lid of invisibility and inviting the greater economy and the greater world to have its eyes on our beautiful continent. Thank you, Bridgewater. Thank you, World Bank. And thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow for another conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nomzamo.